Great sportsmanship, and Johnny seems super excited to be here on the stage, so let's see how that energy translates into his Runick deck.
Main's good. Attempt to set card? Yes. Set a card? Yes.
Ooh, looks like he has that single copy of Rivalry of Warlords and the single copy of Card of Demise.
Ooh, that is a good opening.
I will proceed to end phase. Go ahead.
Fortunately, it looks like there's 2 copies of Ghost Mourner
Standby? Yeah.
in Michael's hand, which are obviously not going to line up especially well here.
Now, unfortunately, it seems like in his hand it is all breaks and no gas, but there is a Pot of Prosperity.
Pot of Prosperity? Yes.
Instinctually activating it away from any impermanence columns, but of course there's no monster on the field to negate that, so don't have to worry too much. We're going to go and banish 6 cards from the extra deck here and dig deep into the deck to try to find something to get that Centur-Ion combo started.
This isn't the clock it used to be, right? It's a little different.
Johnny's already pointing out that he's sat in the feature match area before commenting on the fabric or the cloth of the mat.
That's why he seems so comfortable.
Oh, we're playing against Centur-Ion. Okay. Oh, wait, I don't know what I'm playing against.
Yeah, all of a sudden this is not your everyday Centur-Ion deck.
Wow, Shadow's Light.
It's a really cool card, and it may see a lot more play after the Infinite Forbidden comes out, but it's cool to see it right now.
Yeah, whether it was Duality or Shadow's Light, those kind of contrasting cards released together, obviously ones that line up really well in those light and dark-based strategies. But it looks like he's gone with Wake Up Centur-Ion, which makes a lot of sense.
Nothing on resolution? No. Activate Stand Up Centur-Ion. Anything on card?
Stand Up Centur-Ion.
Nothing on activation. All right.
So here we go to the field spell.
From hand to grave for cost. Place 1 Centur-Ion monster from deck.
This would be very important to try to stop. Let's see if Johnny takes it.
Oh, it looks like he does have that copy of Synchro Zone set, which, as I commented on in the player introductions,
I have no effects on
you know, Johnny heading into this weekend understands that if he's going to incorporate Synchro Zone, he's going to have a weak point against Tempai-based strategies. Well, actually, no, not necessarily, because he would have to Synchro in main phase 1, essentially, and then attack. You could probably get around it with Tempai. But in a strategy like this, where you're not relying on the attacks of non-synchros to activate effects like Tenpai, Synchro Zone is probably one of the worst cards that he can draw against this very synchros, this heavy strategy.
Yeah, it's not necessarily a strong card when it's saying, hey, only synchros can do things. Your opponent's only doing things with synchros.
Yep, I have no effects on resolution. You are good. Effect to put her in a Centur-Ion from my hand or deck into the spell and trap zone is trapped.
So it looks like we have Trudea here.
And if you're unfamiliar with the Centur-Ion strategy, it's really about, right, knights protecting each other in a Spartan sort of way. Some of the monsters are going to go into the spell and trap zone and add effective continuous effects to protect the front row, but then specifically the brand new Centur-Ion Auxilla protects the back row, right? The spell and trap zone cannot have any of its cards destroyed while you have Auxilla on the field, and it's really kind of neat. It's always great when you can see the vibe of the cards as they protect each other in almost a Seal of Orichalcos-like way.
So this is unfortunate here for Michael. Johnny has activated a copy of Skill Drain, which is going to shut off Michael's ability to access what would have been a Premier from his deck. And now we actually see Synchro Zone matter. This is a situation where eventually Mike will likely be able to put a Synchro on the field, but at least for this turn he's going to be able to save himself a little bit of damage by shutting off Trudea's ability to attack. And unfortunately here, for Michael, if Johnny can start to accumulate some more resources, even if he's able to access a Synchro monster, it might not end up mattering.
Seemed like Johnny had sort of a muted opening. When you think about Runick, they usually love to have that field spell and get their cards going fast, but actually it looks like all these continuous trap cards paid off because it was just what he needed to lock off his opponent from attacking.
We have a copy of Runick Tipmet with Ash Blossom, so it does look like Michael opened up with 2 copies of Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring, which, especially in the early stages of the game, can be a fantastic counter to some of the things that Johnny is trying to do. Now, unfortunately for Michael, we see the singleton copy of Rivalry of Warlords, which is going to make it very difficult for him to access synchros. The Centur-Ion strategy has a small array of differing types, like Pyro, for example, so the inability now to go into synchros might make it so that Synchro Zone, which inherently doesn't line up super well against the Centur-Ion strategy, when combined with Rivalry of Warlords, now all of a sudden you have locked your opponent out from the extra deck.
Well, Johnny is comfortable for a reason. He got everything he needed this first game and has been up on this stage before, but we'll see if Michael is able to pull it out. So he sets a card and passes for turn.
I'm really not sure what his pathway at this point is going to be. I mean, he has Pyro, he has Spellcaster, he has Machine, he has Dragons in his deck. They all mismatch, so he's going to have to try and put, I guess, 2 of the same on the field. But even then, I don't think his extra deck is going to have a wide array of options, so it's going to be really difficult for him to push through not only just the Rivalry of Warlords, but the Rivalry, Skill Drain, Synchro Zone setup.
Maybe a little difficult to see there because black sleeves on the dark gray playmat, but there are 3 face downs that are on Michael's side of the field there. So maybe one of those cards could pull us out of this little pit here.
I think the point here that Johnny needs to make is he's established such great field presence. He just needs to make it, not that he would really want to try and go into Hugin with skill drain on the field, but make sure he doesn't get hit with a card like Infinite Impermanence. That looks like Michael's only realistic way of dealing with these continuous trap cards. And as long as Johnny just sits back and is willing to play through probably the deck out component of what the Runick deck is trying to do, he'll probably set himself up for victory.
Well, at the pace we're going so far, this may be the slowest deck out in Runick history, but he does have a very strong lock on this game, at least so far.
Yeah, that's okay. Resolving Primera.
All right, so Centur-Ion Primera is going to go ahead and resolve, banishing itself.
Adding Centur-Ion True Awakening.
Now True Awakening.
True Awakening, the counter trap. You don't typically see this in a lot of Centur-Ion strategies. So this is an interesting one in the sense that if this game was prolonged and we had the side deck incorporated with cards like Cosmic Cyclone, you might actually be able to set up a situation where having a counter trap can shut off the chain early on and make it so that Johnny can't counterplay, and he could break one of these continuous spell or trap cards. But without cards like Cosmic Cyclone in his main deck, I'm not sure if Michael can necessarily navigate the game state in such that way.
It looks like we are going to go ahead and wake up our Centurions.
That is, what's your target again? It doesn't target. Oh, it's good. Yep. Yeah. I will put her in the spell and trap zone. Yeah, and then that was a new set. This is the new set. Okay. I will attempt to end.
So certainly not necessarily the most complicated game state in the sense that it's just, hey, my cards are face up, what can you do about them? But slowly but surely, Michael is able to build a field presence on the board. Just get monsters out and trying to eventually get something going.
So the thing is, he's going to need to try and go into a Synchro monster to ever be able to attack, but I just don't know, looking at his deck list, if he has 2 monsters with the same type that can then go into a Synchro of the same type.
Now, this is a really popular debate among duelists. When do you concede game 1? Do you get more information? Do you get less information? And how not to make the mistake of conceding a game too early that's actually still winnable. And Michael seems to be staying in. He does not think it would be a waste of his time to continue through this, as he draws another copy, I believe, of the field spell there and passes turn. Maybe he knows a way to get out here, but may take a little while to get there.
Yeah, I've constantly just been looking through his deck lists, trying to think about some pathway, but I don't see an obvious pathway. So that question is important. You know, when would you concede if you see that the game is in such a game state that you're not going to be able to come back? Time is an important resource, and understanding when to concede to give yourself the opportunity to win game 2 and 3, especially against a deck in which the games can sometimes last quite a while, is a really important point here, because nobody wants to draw this early in the event.
Well, I don't know how helpful the infinite impermanences that he has in his deck may be, considering with skill drain on the field, you can't negate a negated monster, so you wouldn't be able to do that. So it may not even be that. Now, I did get a little flip there. It looks like it's a spell card that is set directly in front of Synchro Zone, so maybe it's not that. Maybe it's just 2 bluffs, but we'll have to see as the duel rages on. It looks like he decided to go ahead and take the money and run. He's going to.
Perfect, thank you.
This hand is already looking quite good. I'm really curious to see what this Shadows Light does, because he has a copy of it with essentially all you would need to do a pretty potent combo. So.
Send Bonfire for cost.
All right, looks like this is going to resolve this time, discarding that Bonfire and reaching into the deck there.
Yep, being able to activate the effect that can only be used the turn in which it is activated, which is going to allow him to place a Premia into the Spell and Trap card zone.
Already off to a slightly better start, because getting to do what you do.
Yep, and now it's able to pop out of that Spell and Trap card zone as a continuous trap card. It will now allow him to search his deck for a... Oh, here's that Centur-Ion True Awakening. As I commented on quite a bit, actually, looking at it from his perspective, getting access to a counter trap is arguably one of the most important things that he can do if he actually wants to navigate through this pretty difficult strategy. So you see him prioritize that True Awakening.
It is what makes Runick so fun to play as the duelist. Your opponent has a game plan, and you're like, no, not this, not this, not that. But you're also banishing those cards that they really need. Being able to stop that in advance will keep your deck safe and at least make that one play resolve.
So we see here Trudea bring itself to the trap, well, as a trap into the Spell and Trap card zone, and now the brand new Gargoyle #2 also enters into the spell and trap card zone as a continuous trap card.
Back to special himself? Yeah, I will keep him a level 8. You'll keep him that way, okay. Yep.
I think we're about to hit level 12 there on Synchros.
Centur-Ion Auxilia.
Ah, so we've got the new Auxilia from Legacy of Destruction.
Chainlink 2 Gargoyle to add himself to hand.
Yeah, so now Gargoyle will now add himself to hand.
That goes back to hand. This goes to hand. He will add any Centur-Ion card. Ooh, this is pretty. It is very pretty.
Ooh, I think that is a quarter century.
Very pretty.
I've seen
You're
those. They really look nice. And what's nice is that Auxilia is going to protecting all the spells and traps. So that really is going to help and keep that Runick card at bay.
So here we have Centur-Ion Phalanx. So he's playing multiple of the trap cards. Phalanx is one that I think is a little bit more common as opposed to the True Awakening.
I think that might be the first time I've actually seen a True Awakening on the board.
Oh, absolutely. When he searched out the counter trap, especially in game 1, I was quite surprised. Sometimes when players utilize counter traps, it's a card that they use in their side deck as a singleton copy in games in which they know they're going first.
Wow, this one's crazy. Yeah. Effect of Crimson Dragon, target Auxilia to summon a level.
Wow, so now we see what the shadows is being used for. It's being used to put Crimson Dragon on the field, which now allow him to return it back to the extra deck. It looks like Blazar Dragon.
This is not making it. Read it. Yeah, sure. Banish itself for cost to negate any card, effect, summon, or attack.
Yeah, it looks.
He's very big.
Sounds like Michael is giving us a great description here of Cosmic Blazar Dragon, which means with True Awakening and Cosmic Blazar Dragon, he has multiple negation effects, which would potentially line up really quite well against a strategy like Runick.
Well, I think what's so neat to see is the impact of Legacy Destruction on this deck, because he's not having to wait anymore. Instead of waiting for the draw phase for his Crimson Dragon technique to basically like use the effect and get what he needs, he did it before then, and now it's Johnny's time to navigate through a very complicated board.
Yeah, this is quite impressive. It looks like he has multiple spell and trap cards. His True Awakening is live, and he has access to 2 of his Centurions in the trap card zone that he would theoretically be able to special summon out. So he has an additional synchro play set up on Johnny's turn as well.
Cosmic Blazar Dragon is a very powerful card, too, to have to stare down. And I remember when it first came out, it's like, oh, wow, Stardust Dragons are getting even better. But you don't get to see them all the time, so it's really neat for them to be at the top tables here.
So here's a heads-up play from Johnny. He's utilizing his Runick tip. He's doing it in draw phase. Not that he would be able to destroy spell and trap cards with Auxilia on the field anyway, but you do want to utilize cards against Centurions, generally speaking, outside of the main phase, if possible, because that's when the Trudeum Premia can be special summoned out of the spell and trap card zone.
Now, as a note here for our viewers, remember, it's only the face-up cards in your spell and trap zone that cannot be destroyed. So those 3 face-downs, they are kind of up for grabs.
I butterfingered. Anything on resolution? Nothing on resolution.
Johnny not necessarily happy with the card that he picked, maybe learning Auxilia's effect the hard way.
Standby main. Main is successful.
All right, so here we are into the main phase, and now all of a sudden the Centurion monsters are live.
That is okay. And destroyed.
I was going to say that we finally got to see the Runick Fountain, but we also finally got to see Cosmic Blazar Dragon resolve itself on the top table. So again, by banishing itself, it is going to negate and destroy that field spell.
Yes.
Deciding not to do anything, I'm going to go ahead and let the special summon happen here.
Effect of Garyon summon targeting Runick Fountain.
So now he's going to bring back the Runick Fountain from his graveyard.
Worst monster allowing you to bring back a non-quick play Runick spell. You don't usually see a lure of the Runick, but it is nice to see that it is still grabbing the Runick field spell there. Runick Fountain going back to the hand.
Ooh, it has that single copy of Rivalry again. Interesting.
That is fun. Anything on res? Yes. On res, activate to place a Centur-Ion from my hand or grave into the spell and trap zone. That is okay.
All right, so we are going to go ahead and wake up a Centur-Ion once again.
I'm curious if he's now going to, he's going to be activating his continuous trap card effects. This will allow him to search. It'll also eventually allow him to conduct a synchro summon with his stand-up Centurion, which allows him to immediately synchro summon using monsters he controls when he special summons, and of course, bringing these monsters from the spell and trap card zone as they are continuous traps will enable him to do so.
Certainly a cool gameplay mechanic that we're seeing a lot more this year than maybe ever before. Being able to just have these monsters jump in and out of the spell and trap zone is either continuous traps or spells.
Yeah, we see that, of course, with the Snake Eye strategy, and we see it here as well. Yep, so as I commented on,
Or does it trigger first?
it is in fact immediately.
It triggers after the summon, and then immediately after the effect resolves, I synchro summon. Thinking. Yep, so she is level 8, she's level 4.
So we might be jumping in here. Players discussing amongst themselves what is going to come next.
Smashing, targeting, arrow.
Try to destroy it with the flashing.
Primera to put her into the put her as a trap.
Very interesting.
Yeah, this is huge because now the resolution is still going to occur in such a way that he's able to conduct a synchro summon.
I do, but I have no tuners, and I.
Oh yes, of course. Well, that makes sense.
Okay.
Would need a tuner and a non-tuner monster, except in certain circumstances.
Yeah, it's really important that he targeted the tuner there and not the Trudea. So with targeting Primea, it establishes what was actually open knowledge. We knew that he had the MF.
Attempt to enter battle phase, you'll get skipped because of Runick cards. Yep. I'll pass. In the end phase, Blazar returns to the field.
Yeah, this recursion of Blazar is going to be really difficult for Johnny to navigate through. That constant negation against a deck it really needs every single one of its spell or trap cards. Not going to line up especially well.
Jerome opened the tournament with the line that Barone's reign is over, but man, that opens the way for other powerful synchro monsters with even better negation effects.
Yeah, you could definitely argue that Blazar, on the field at least, it's much more difficult to get onto the field, but you know they are comparable. Barone was that powerful.
Once Blazar gets out, though, well, as you can see, it is really helping Michael fight back on Johnny's onslaught of Runick cards. Digging deep in the deck, let's go grab the field spell here. Another stand-up Centur-Ion. And the field is full. It's actually neat to see that monsters are coming out here. We might even get to a Game 3.
Johnny's going to need to find a way to get that Blazar off the field and then activate Rivalry of Warlords. I'm not sure what his other 2 spell or trap cards are, but that's really, to me, the only realistic pathway. And unfortunately, at this point, at least if unfortunate in the sense for Johnny, at this point, it's becoming less and less likely that one of those 2 unknown spell or trap cards would be able to do that.
Well, at this point, Rivalry of Warlords wouldn't be that interesting anyway. There's mostly dragons on the field.
Yeah, that is true. It actually, we said this in Game 1 that preemptive Rivalry is really challenging because all of the non-extra deck monsters in Centur-Ion are truly different types.
Any cards or effects of cards on the field for the rest of the turn.
As they say, we have unplugged Player 2's controller. It is Hot Red Dragon Archfiend King Calamity, preventing the activation of any cards or effects for the end of the turn.
Yeah, you don't typically see Calamity on your turn nowadays. It's a card that you almost always see on the opponent's turn through some combination of Cosmic Dragon, Stand-Up Centur-Ion, etc. So seeing it here on the main phase, probably going to set it up such that he can just attack for 8,000. So like Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring, which could potentially shut Johnny off from some of his more ideal opening turns.
It's great to see both duelists smiling after 2 very intense games. So here we go into Game 3.
I don't see any hand interaction, so let's see what Johnny has. Is it just going to be a pass with more interesting?
Okay.
So I'm curious what the card in his hand is.
End the draw phase, end the standby phase. Main one. Bonfire to add a level 4 or lower pyro. That is okay.
Being very careful here, just...
No, I didn't know. Oh, so if we can actually get to level 4, any level 4 or lower pyro.
Oh.
No, this is the one that puts another one from hand or deck into the back row.
You can see Johnny here is realizing that Bonfire is not just a card that you utilize in Snake Eyes and Fire King strategies. There's actually a wealth of pretty powerful Pyro monsters in the game right now.
Yeah, there's certainly a lot of great stuff. Whether it's Ashen or, hey, even Centur-Ion.
You're good. Normal summon Trudea. Summon successful. I have nothing on summon. So this is the place one effect. Yep. If I keep remembering. I just read it, but place her and one from hand or deck.
Yeah, so theoretically he would place this in the Spell and Trap card zone, and now he's going to put Primea if this were to resolve.
I'll go ahead and change.
And is in fact going to be responded to with a skill drain. I'm curious. There's a few curiosities here. One is he has Pot of Prosperity, specifically Michael. I wonder if there was a potential situation here where he uses that first to dig to Cosmic Cyclone. Because now, obviously, his Trudea's effect has been negated.
Ah, I see, I see. He might have been trying to hold off, maybe see if he could keep full damage instead of have the negative drawback of Pot of Prosperity, you know, reducing things to half damage. Not every deck is 10 pi where it could do enough damage, but his skill drain you see there, it's just still such a powerful card. And if you can afford it, you can keep yourself from ever having any of these monsters use their effects against you. But you're absolutely right. There is the Cosmic Cyclone. If he had used it first, he might have been able to get out of this situation.
Interesting. Double Ash. Can I read this while you're... Yes. Can either place a Centur-Ion from deck or set a Centur-Ion Scholar Trap.
Yeah, he's looking at Emblema Oath, another one of the cards that acts as a starter, allowing you to place Trudea or Premia into the Spell and Trap card zone, which obviously, because they're there face up in the Spell and Trap card zone, would then allow you to special summon it, kicking off your combos.
Certainly a powerful deck. Everything in Valiant Smashers is just doing great right now, from Memento to Valmonica. We do have some of those decks in the tournament too, so it's nice to see it really paying off and finally showing up here.
So one of the things that's important to note here is Johnny kept a card in hand. We can infer that the likelihood there is that he has a Curse Seal set because he needs to keep a spell in his hand in order to pay the cost of Curse Seal, the Forbidden Spell. So as I commented on earlier, those Cosmic Cyclones really potent here in this matchup, but with that being the only spell and trap card destruction, if Johnny were able to draw a card, a copy of Curse Seal, it could lock him out of all of the ways in which he can counteract with that. I really appreciate, though, Michael's willingness to just hold that Cosmic Cyclone. I'm curious if he's going to construct a game state where he gets access to True Awakening, so that the Cosmic Cyclone is more likely to resolve. Or wait till he gets multiple copies. Ooh, here we see Gozen match.
Okay. Gozen match is going to be difficult to get through, and I don't know if you want to use the Cyclone to respond to it.
It would do, because it would do as much as it can first. Okay.
So Judge is just talking us through the process of monster swapping, and
I have no chain link free. Do you have a chain link free? No chain link.
it is going to be a legal play there, so the monsters are able to swap, and so you're never controlling everything of different attributes, so we're good there.
This will lock him going forward a little bit.
But as you said, Michael's got such a great understanding of his deck, perhaps he decided that this was the attribute that he needed instead of his Pyro monster, Trudea.
Well, against Gozen, it would be the Earth, the fact that MF is an Earth, which actually doesn't line up especially well, because Trudea is a Dark. The only similarities are with Gargoyle #2 and Trudea.
Well, here's your moment. Cosmic Cyclone's been activated. Are we going to see the Curse Seal of Forbidden Spell?
If he had it, it would have been activated.
He might be carefully thinking. Maybe.
Okay, so it does.
Okay.
So it isn't Curse Seal. All right, fair enough. So I know that he has, I don't know exactly which one, but a Runick Spell Trap in his hand. He must have just valued holding the Runick card because it was a Runick that didn't necessarily line up as a point of interaction, which is also understandable. Fair enough.
Good to hold on to the cards just in case you start fresh and draw the field spell and maybe have nothing else. Trudea coming back to the hand here, at least another copy of it with another activation of Bonfire.
His life points, though, now down to 3,250. You know, it looks like MF has 2,000 attack itself, which means he's on a 2-turn clock, as you would say.
Definitely
Johnny
is
unable to find a way of stymieing the battle phase. All right, yeah, now we're going to see the sort of long chain of the Runick strategy, just constantly special summoning to block attacks.
Taking just a look there. Johnny not sure. Looks like Jerry's coming back. The Runick Fangs.
Yeah, this is the one that will allow him to destroy MF if it, well, any card on the field, or presumably MF.
I would imagine, not going to redeclare the attack there, so not interested in losing the monster, which means that Michael really values holding on to that body.
Oh, that's a huge draw here from Johnny because it buys him a turn with no damage.
Basically reset the 2-turn clock.
Yep.
Now, it is interesting, you know, as we highlight Jerry the Runick Fangs here, we actually haven't seen Hugin or Munich, I think, the entire set of duels here. Or any of the Sletmir either. So it's been really just that little pup taking out the entire deck on its own.
We haven't even really seen Runick Fountain at all. It's been negated, it's been destroyed, things along those lines.
But I'll tell you, getting rid of those negates, putting pressure on your opponent to get rid of those instead of the continuous traps that are protecting you, may be what is keeping Johnny in the duel, although, granted, he did lose that duel.
Yeah, here we go. You see, Michael has just such a great understanding here. He's using his Emblema Oath now to set the True Awakening from his deck.
Oh, that's the banished one, right? This is the negate. Oh, negate one. I'm tripping. I just read it too. Oh, no worries. You're good. Yeah, the negate's over there. You're good. Draw for turn? Yeah.
Johnny reminding us that the players do read. It is hard to keep track of all these different card effects if you never played against them before. And Centur-Ion is a very nuanced deck with a lot of interesting card effects there. So looks like Jerry is going to destroy the face down. Oh, negating it. Interesting. And that does open up a spell and trap zone.
So I think he's trying to construct a game state where now he can just continually attack directly, but it's just going to be so difficult with the Runicks. The ability just to constantly put out a monster that essentially blocks the damage. Yeah, which Runick are we going to see this time? Yeah, so
I
now
assume it would be another Jerry at this point. He's been so effective so far.
You got me at 3250. How big is that? 2,000.
Ooh, so we had Dimensional Barrier. Okay, that was the trap card. I thought it was one of the Centurions. It was hard to tell. It's a super copy of Barrier, and it's going to shut him off from being able to special summon a fusion monster. Also means that Johnny doesn't have an additional Runick spell or trap set, or else he would have chained a 2-dimensional Barrier. So now Johnny is only one attack away from being defeated.
Certainly an incredible comeback here if Michael does take this duel, but the duel isn't over until the last card is played, so going to place Primera there and move on.
Curious, it looks like Johnny has 2 copies of a Runick spell, Runick Quick Play in his hand. I'm curious if he activates one on his main phase or at some point in his turn and then sets the other one to kind of hedge against potentially. Oh, that was a huge one right there, the Runick tip. Because the issue here is he's unable to go into Hugin and search Fountain, but he's able to now get Fountain as a result of drawing that Runick tip. So this was really the turn where he needed to get access to Runick tip.
Absolutely. Certainly Skill Drain, a great card, but when you have an intersection of effect monsters in your deck with that card, well, sometimes you have to play around it very, very carefully. But luckily, just drew it and has the Fountain in it.
So he's going to destroy the Spell and Trap card. I was curious again if he just wanted to put a monster on the field so that he could set another Runick. That way he had an additional bit of protection. Because one of the things that Michael can do is if he does get access to Phalanx, Phalanx can clear out the single fusion monster for a turn, banish it until the next standby phase, and then attack directly. And seeing as how Johnny's only 1 turn away from being defeated in terms of the 2000 attack of MF, it's interesting.
Ooh, by activating that Pot of Duality, they've officially locked themselves out, so Johnny will not be able to special summon any monsters here, and maybe held off just for that purpose, or thought maybe I'm just going to draw more Runick spells, that'll be fine. But that does mean there'll only be 1 body to protect things next turn. Oh, are we going to hard commit to the Messenger of Peace? If it's destroyed, that'd be it. But we are doing it.
And I'll proceed to my battle phase. No get escape because of Runick tip.
All right, so he's got 12 turns viable here of Messenger.
Pay 100, pay 100, pay 100.
His spell and traps are a little clogged here, all things considered, where we're not sure what those other 2 spell and trap cards are, all the way to the left of the field. We know it's not a Runick card. I'm curious if there's a, oh wow, just 1 turn of Messenger piece.
I guess he just needs the 1 turn.
I can choose.
And it is very interesting to see a card that works like that, but that absolutely is Messenger of Peace. You could just say, nah, you don't feel like paying 100 life points. I'm going to get rid of this.
So now we see the Runick tip, which is, again, an incredible draw from Johnny, and now being able to recycle some Runicks from his graveyard. Oh, he's going to hold up because he can activate another Runick. Oh, he keeps going after the field. It's just a really interesting way of going about doing it. I'm curious if just putting the monster on field is valuable here, but I really trust Johnny. He seemingly has navigated this matchup in this deck quite a few times. He has a great understanding of what he needs to do when the game gets to this game state.
To a degree, he's making what I would call more explosive plays than consistent plays. Sometimes when you make the safest play possible, it doesn't necessarily advance the game state. What Johnny seems to be doing is just banking, I'm going to draw something good. Let's go for it. And so far, yeah, so good.
Well, it's really important when you play a deck like this to understand your lose conditions. Once the game gets to this, there are only very particular things that can happen in which you're actually possibly in a position to lose. So when you play these sort of stun-based strategies, it's important just to cover as many of the percentages as possible. And it did look like Johnny drew one of the most important cards for this particular matchup, which is the copy of Inspector Border, which it looks like he's set. We've been talking a lot about Emeth and the fact that it's 2,000 in attack. If it were able to connect one more time would end the game. Well, 2,000 attack lined up with the 2,000 defense. Unfortunately here, he's going to be pretty disappointed. Now Johnny is feeling much more confident because he's basically walled up behind Goes in Match, Skill Drain, and a monster with a pretty reasonable amount of defense.
2,000 historically is a very high number for a 4-star monster.
In deck. You can just count the deck. You can count it like this. It's faster that way. There's some banish extra deck stuff, and it'll get confusing. 13. 13?
So 13 cards remaining. It looks like Johnny may actually be trying to clinch out via deck out, so we may really get to see the full deck out here.
Go ahead and activate Destruction Target the Centur-Ion Waco. Sure. Can't be destroyed because I control Centur-Ion monster cards, and I don't banish anything. Okay, no, I had to destroy it. That was my... Wasn't even thinking.
That's okay. I don't think that that's going to matter too much.
Yeah.
Getting a Runick spell in the graveyard so you can activate one later and draw doesn't feel too bad.
In the grand scheme of things here.
But yes, unfortunately, that activation was legal, so it does get committed. But we did get a pot of duality for our trouble there with a Runick Fountain draw of 1. So it looks like we're seeing Messenger of Peace, another copy. I think that's a second quarter century secret rare. Oh, we're doing it. Okay, we're going to go ahead and grab that.
I could see him just setting another one, continually walling up.
My bad. You're good.
This has really turned around fast. A mysterious card. Johnny certainly all smiles here, but definitely great reasons to be in a good mood. Those 2-set monsters really may defend.
Yeah, he's unwilling to set that Solemn Judgment that he selected off the Pot of Duality a couple turns ago. I presume he has some type of counter trap with one of those 2-set Spell and Traps, and he needs to keep a Spell and Trap card open in order to continually activate the Runicks, which of course will be his pathway to victory. And with only 6 minutes remaining on the clock, he does need to get those. At this point, I think now 12 cards banished off the top of Michael's deck.
He's not incentivized to keep this game going. He needs to banish as many cards as he can to thin down the process of decking his opponent out.
Still in the draw off target.
So if we banish one, I believe we've got 12 left on Michael's side.
I think 11 because that Dimensional Barrier got banished, and now 4 more should bring him down to 7.
Cards in deck.
So he has 7 deck points, not an official game term, of course, but if he loses 7 more cards and tries to try, that's it.
Destruction tip, and those 2 is fine.
Yeah, with 6 minutes approximately left on the clock, I think Johnny will be able to pull this off. Especially with the abundance of Runick cards. You know, sometimes, let's say Runick Sprite or Runick for Hire, those type of strategies that might utilize deck out as a almost plan C game plan. Those ones might not have enough Runick cards to realistically do it, but with this particular strategy, when you're playing cards like Smiting Storm and Golden Droplet, you'll assuredly be able to.
Smiting Storm would certainly be a huge hit here of 5 banished cards right now.
But I can profit. That's only protect. So this protects itself. This protects any level 5 or higher Centur-Ion monster card I control. Okay. I have a destruction in the draw phase. Target a set. I'll chain declaring fusion. That's okay. And 4.
I don't think fusion is going to be an issue here.
Yes.
I believe he's down to 2.
Sure. Can't be destroyed, so I don't finish anything. Well, oops.
Johnny pushing a little too hard here, but he's in such a good position it doesn't technically matter.
I'll trigger fountain. Target. Yes.
You know, it's a good time when maybe you're not playing the deck as much as you want to the best of your ability, but it's still working out.
Yeah.
We got 2 in deck. Yes.
I don't think he's activated Runick. Smiting Storm, yeah, that'll do it.
That'll do it. And it is optional. It doesn't have to be 5, so he's going to banish 2. And I haven't seen it in a while, but I think we're going to see a deck out here.
Set the Solemn Judgment for good measure, and that'll wrap it up.